Hello, this is Max Thompson, and this is another devlog video for our final end game project called Cadenza. It's been a while since I've made a little devlog video because there's been a lot going on, both on the project and just my general work life and personal life. So I haven't really had time to do a video as well as do the development. But I felt like I'm at a stage now where I can make another devlog video before the game enters its final stages. Um, but yeah, like I mentioned, a lot of stuff's been done. A lot of main stuff has been done now. You might be able to see here. I'll go over that in a moment. But so the main sort of stuff I think I covered in the last devlog. It's been a while. I think it was mainly just like the level merging and the setting up of all the music finalizing stuff. Um, the level, like I said, has all been merged, and I think I wanted to do like destructibles and like the meshes and stuff, which I've done. The Some of the levels still need some of the destructible meshes implemented. We'll go over that first because that's the more interesting bit, and I'll talk about the enemy meshes in a second. So with the destructibles, I always had it in mind that I wanted destructibility within the game, mainly like these desks, the chairs, some of these tables and such, and that's what I've done. So initially all these were just standard static meshes that couldn't be moved, so when developing level it was quite hard to see how well it would do with destructibility. But the idea was you enter the level and it's full of all these desks and stuff, and you leave the level and it's been destroyed, covered in the enemy clones like innards and they're like blood basically. But it's not blood anymore. It's more of like an oil. So we'll change it to that just to make it a bit more uh, less gory, I'd say. Um, but yeah, so all these have now been replaced with blueprints based off of a fracture. So if I actually open this blueprint, I can show you how it works. So basically, all the components have a very simple on-hit component, which is linked to a geometry. Basically, what you have to do, or what I had to do, it's probably not the right way to do it, but it's the way I figured out how to do it. Select a static mesh in the level, convert it to a fractured component with a fracture mode. You fracture it, save it as a new like geometry type, which I can actually show. So this desk has got two versions. It's got a geometry collection which stores like the fracture details. So for like when it actually fractures, how is it going to fracture, and the actual blueprint itself. So yeah, on basically on collision, it checks to see if it's a player or an enemy that's collided with it. If so, it will do this just once because I basically found an issue where it kept playing a sound or I kept trying to re-break. It sets the collision type to a new collision type, which is basically called post-fracture. This is basically just to avoid the player colliding with all the individual table pieces after it's been fractured and like getting thrown out the map. So it just sets the collision for it to just ignore the pawn and the enemy, and then it calls for the crumbling of the mesh, and then it plays like a break sound. And this code is basically the exact same across all the other destructibles. The only one that's a bit different is the walls. This level doesn't have the wall destructibility in it, just this is the lobby. There's not really too much destruction in there. But you'll see in a moment when I show you a level that's got like the desk dividers. They take a little bit more hits to break, just because I didn't want everything breaking in one go. I felt like those would break a little bit less. But yeah, the destruction took a bit to get it working. For some reason, some of the meshes just didn't really want to collide or have any collision for some reason. So it was just a case of re-importing and resetting up the collision for those, and then setting up the fracturing, making sure they all were correct, and then starting the process of replacing all the meshes in the level with their destructible versions. There's only a couple more levels left to do. It is just a very tedious process of selecting the mesh, replacing the mesh with the selected actor, resetting the rotation to match what it currently had, changing all the other meshes that are on top of the desk to have physics, so that when it breaks they fall instead of basically staying in the air, and then also giving those no collision with the player as well. It's just a very tedious process, Not hard. It's just tedious. So it's a case of putting on the music at the end of the day, or just doing that for a couple of hours, making sure everything's actually working, playing through the level a couple of times, and yeah. Onto the other main change. I'll show you the actual destruction in action in a moment, but I want to show you these guys. Let's move them over just so you can actually see them a bit better. Oh, actually, I need to get the other one. Uno momento. So, these are ignore that, the 3 final player models in the game. So you've got the hero. For some reason, there's just a gap. It's not like that. I think it's just it might be just a bit of the shirt missing, but that's fine. So you've got the hero, who is from the concept art like a dishevelled sort of former employee, office worker dude, who's had enough of the grey corporate style and the lack of fun and music that they've got. As you can see, he's got some nice chucks on, and just a red tie, looking very nostalgia critic-esque. I mentioned that to Marta, who did the concept art, and we all thought that was quite funny. And he's got a little bandolier for when he's got his amps equipped, and just little sleeves and rolled up sleeves as well. And then you've got this guy, who is based off of the concept art as well for one of the 3 enemies in the game. For this sort of final build, we're only going to have 1 enemy in, just because we don't really have time to model the other 2, and set up the sort of attacks and stuff for the other 2 sort of styles. But we're happy with this dude. He is the larger enemy. So we basically had standard enemy, a larger sort of bruter style, and then a smaller sort of male runner. So we've got the brute guy. I've scaled him down a bit from what he was going to be in terms of size, but he's still taller and larger than the player. And you can see he's got a bit of a beer gut. He's got a very grey office suit. And yeah, just very boring outfit. And then you've got the boss. So sort of went for a 80s to 90s sort of office style boss. I forget the name of the film, but there was a film that we referenced a picture from. It's actually a famous film, but it's gone past me. Basically, there's a guy in that who's an office boss who's just an absolute dork. Well, not really a dork. I'd just say an ass. Who sort of dresses like this. You got the suspenders, you got the striped tie, you got the striped shirt, and you got like the tucked in shirt and everything. And yeah, we sort of drew inspiration from that. I wanted to differentiate him from the enemies that would be in the game, so we gave him a sort of green and purple colour scheme. In the actual concept art, he's got skulls for little pins, and he's got a skull on his tie. But because of it's a low poly mesh, we couldn't really do that, so we just stuck with the simple sort of setup there. But yeah, you can see that the 3 models in. They've been rigged. Yes, rigging. I hate rigging. I hate's a strong word. I despise the process of figuring out how to get a mesh to work with an unreal skeleton. From previous research, back when I was starting the project, I was like, oh yeah, this will be fine. I can do this. Because I initially wanted to use AccuRig, which I believe is an NVIDIA program. Don't quote me. But it's basically a program that I'd used a while ago for rigging a mesh, just to do some testing with it that I'd actually created myself for a project a while back, and that worked. And so I thought, oh yeah, this could be fine. Looked up some tutorials, and they were like very easy to transfer over from AccuRig to Unreal Engine 5. Sweet. Got all the meshes, put it into AccuRig. The main reason I chose to do it because it was an auto rigger. Basically, what it does is it rigs it by you placing where the shoulder and all the joints will be roughly, does some calculations, and then rigs it, and then weight paints it for you automatically. And in the preview on AccuRig, it looked great. There was no face splitting, no mesh splitting, no deformities, nothing. Cool. Export as an FBX for Unreal Ready. Import it to Unreal with the correct skeleton. No, sorry, it's not going to work. It was like this guy. He was just T-posing. All the animations they were playing, apparently, but they just weren't moving. Did some searches. Apparently, it could be, and it's because of something with the roots and stuff. Tried to do some fix-arounds with it with the actual exported one, and it just wasn't working. So I gave up for a little bit. Went back to doing my destructible implementation, and then I found a video by a guy. I forgot his name, but I will definitely. Actually, I think I've got it here. This guy, Thomas Potter. Godsend video. It's 5 minutes long, and it works. It's using Blender, and I haven't used Blender basically at all. I was taught with Maya, and after using Maya at uni and realizing I didn't like meshes and really making characters, I just moved away from really learning about it. And Blender's a good program in general to use, and I'm actually going to start learning to use it now after this, because it's so much easier to use than Maya. Because I forgot to mention, I did also try to do a fix in Maya. Never again. I'm going to definitely move away from using Maya. Still know how to use it, and I just don't want to, because Blender was so much easier, and there were so many more guides. And I mean, this guide was 5 minutes long, and there was a plugin that I downloaded that literally just worked. Basically, I will show you here. So in Blender, you have this plugin which basically initiates a sort of skeleton, and you rig it to the mesh, and it rigs it with like 3 sort of skeletons. So you've got like a tweaking skeleton, where you move it, a deform skeleton, which is used for like weight painting, and then the actual Unreal skeleton. And any changes you do to these 2 will do it to the Unreal skeleton. And then you link them, pair the skeleton with the mesh, and then you export it with the FBX, and then it's rigged. So I think I actually just tricked myself trying to do it the easy way into learning how to rig, and also how to weight paint. Weight painting is another ball ache of a thing to do, but it is essential, because if you don't weight paint, especially with meshes with different layers of faces, it just looks like butts and just doesn't work. So, for example, all these are joints. So you can see in the hand, you got all the joints for the fingers and stuff. You got the joints all along here. These are all the Unreal bones. So these are like for like with the bones that would appear in Unreal. So you can see this is a shoulder joint or upper arm, and then when you move it, the rest of the arm moves. Before weight painting, I can actually potentially show you. Yes, I didn't think I could do it after I'd turned it off. So with the weight painting, you can see. So this arm, this area, would be what's affected when this joint moves, and then this is the. Oh, didn't like that. Didn't like that. Give me one moment. Basically, I was only really editing it after. Oh, I didn't like that either. After I had exported it, and all my saves are before setting the Unreal rig as the main one. Oh, let's just undo and go back to how I had it before, so it's not broken. Yeah. Okay. So you can see if I go to the head, the weight is obviously painted to his head, so he's got a nice big burnt scalp. And then you got clavicles, which are the your clavicle. I've got the name of it. Collarbone. Yeah, because it's on your collar. God. It's been a long day. But you can see here, so where this mesh overlaps with the base layer of the mesh, initially it wasn't painted. So when you moved it, this would just stay still, the suspender, and then the arm would go through it. So it would be a lot of mesh intertwining, which was automatically fixed by the AccuRig. So basically, instead of doing automatically, I've had to learn how to weight paint. Very much trial and error. It's a case of painting it, thinking you're finished, exporting it to Unreal, importing it, playing an animation. Oh god, his feet are now moving when his head moves. Oh dear. Going back in, checking it, and doing it all again. One thing you may notice, I'm not sure how well it will show up on the video, you can see because it's a heat map that it uses. Yeah, this bit here is affected by this very slightly, but it's still affected. So you have to check the entire mesh for each joint, or basically the entire mesh, to make sure that there's no areas affected. It's easy. It's simple to test. I don't want to click anything again. By in here, but then there'll be certain animations that you play that do multiple joints at once, and because there's overlapping weight painted, it just doesn't like it. So it's a case of going through all the joints, going, yep, that looks right. For example, like the belt, some layers like this. I should change that, but I can't. I don't want to now because I've done too much. So like this back bit of the suspender is fully linked to the mesh's pelvis. So whenever the pelvis would move, this would partially move as well. And it was just a nightmare because doing it with automatic weights where it assumes how everything is weighted, you then have to go through and then just do it. So for example, this spine, so this was pelvis 1, 2, 3, this bit here, the entire suspenders were selected. So whenever the mid spine moved, the suspenders moved. And yeah, it was just a nightmare. Same with the jacket for this guy, the tie. Ties were horrible. Good God, ties. Because of how they were clipping with this mesh. I mean, don't get me wrong, Tom, great modeler. The way he just spammed these out, amazing. Thank you very much. But it was because it was off of a low poly mesh that I gave him, base. It probably a case of the base mesh was just not very good. Yeah, there was some mesh clipping where the tie was stuck in the mesh and you couldn't really get the weight plating. Yeah. But yeah, after a day or two of learning how to weight paint, thinking I've got it, failing and then doing it again, I'm at a point where I'm happy with the product after going from no experience in weight painting to three meshes that have been painted and rigged. Another thing as well with this add-on, you can do it with Unreal 5 and Unreal 4 mannequins. Oh god, pardon me. And a thing I learned after importing it is that the player is using an Unreal 4 skeleton and the enemies are using Unreal 5s. Mainly because of the attack animations I've got for the player. They're using Unreal 4 mannequins. Don't know why. Don't really know why. And I did him in Blender with the Unreal 5 thing. So when he imports, there's a bit of an error, which is probably why his neck's a little bit funky. But it's fine. It's fine. So let me show you these guys in action. Yeah, that's the issue with the player. I've also set it back to 60 FPS just for a little bit, just to test him. Oh, it's because they're outside the nav mesh. Doop. There we go. Excuse me. So the player's shoulders are a little bit too high, which is probably because of that skeleton issue. but to be honest, it's fine. It helps differentiate from the other guys, and it's not like his shoulders are above his head; they're just a bit slightly higher. But yeah, 60 FPS is fine on most levels. There are one or two where it is a bit chunky, so it's on smooth framing, so it's between 60 and 30. So if needed, it will drop down to 30, but most of the time it will try and aim for 60 with a minimum of 30. But you can see this big guy doing his little spin kicks and attacking. That's the first time I've actually tested with the boss attacking me. He looks a lot better because it's scaled down a bit, and this guy's a little bit taller. But yeah, very, very happy with how it's turned out for these guys. I'm gonna have to go this way. Let me show you the... You can see here, there are some issues with the collision for the tables, but I mean by the time it's broken, yeah, it's fine. Breaks very nicely, physics are very nice for it. It's just the built-in chaos engine. Yeah, like see, he collides still with the fractured stuff, which is good, but it's just me that doesn't. And then after a while they disappear, just to help with frames. But if I go and equip a... Yeah, because I've got low health, the music is quieter. And yeah, you can see, got the blood still, and they collide. And yeah, there you go. Let me show you some destruction in a better level. So let's go to the zigzag. There's another thing I want to point out with how those blueprints work. For the walls, for some reason, I have to displace them a little bit. I really don't know why, but I just had to, because when they spawn the level, you'll see, boop, they move over. Yeah, there's a bunch of dudes in the level, so let me just play. And you can hear some of these tables, they sometimes fall over. It's just with how it's the meshes are placed, I can just fine tune it if needed. But by the time that you've run through it, it's just a mess. So I'm just gonna run through the level. I'm not gonna pick up the weapon. I'm just gonna show off the destructibility. And yeah, like it is very. God. Excuse me. Can I get through? No, I can't. Yeah. But yeah, you can see here, like where they just collide with it. You come into the level and they've just exploded everything. So it might need changing, but I mean, it's funny. It's just walking into a room and all these big dudes in suits have just exploded all their desks in rage. So it could lead into the fact that, yeah, they're just very destructive. But yeah, the destruction, I'm happy with how it's turned out. It's obviously going to potentially have issues with frame rate, like I said, on the larger levels, but it's fine. I mean, you're only in those levels for not long anyway, and 30 FPS minimum is enough. It's not like it's going up and down, it's like smoothly going between the two. It's just a big room for the bosses. But yeah, the next sort of stage is now to finalise the actual game itself. Get all the levels finished with the destructibility. Get a nice little in-between screen whenever you load into a level. I was looking to get the amp leveling up implemented. It'll probably be just very, very face value. Like, here's the screen to level up your amp. And then just a little click button. Because we didn't have time to have the art implemented. or created, sorry, for those parts. So it's going to be very bare bones UI, sadly. But at the end of the day, this is still basically just a proof of concept for the main sort of combat style and the music style, which we've done. These are all just the pretty bits getting sorted surrounding it. But yeah, I'm not really sure if I showed it last time, but the level transition as well, it now holds the amps you've got equipped. So I can actually show it on the lobby. If I load into the lobby, I can show you a little quick run through. So when you spawn into the lobby, you won't have any weapons, amps equipped. And then you go through the first elevator, and you go into your break room, and then you choose an amp. It's going to be very loud. No, that's not going to do it. Sorry, I was listening to Jeff Buckley before this. And you can see, look, it re-equips it. It re-equips it. And it contains what you've got equipped. So if you've got the one in your equipped slot and then one in your holstered slot, it will remember those and equip them in the correct order. A little change needs to be made to just the code for the equipping, just so it potentially can continue to play the tracks when going through. But worst comes to worst, it just restarts the track, and then you're fine because you've re-equipped it. But yeah, the final bits now will just be getting ready for a presentation I've got in 2 weeks. Technically almost a week. Getting all my write-up done for the hand and stuff, which will just be getting all the stuff collated and writing out about what went well, what didn't go well, what I've learned. Finalising all the actual destruction, and then getting a little playable demo to work. But yeah, with the project overall, I feel like I've definitely learnt a lot from before I started. Like, for example, the weight painting and rigging of my meshes. Before this, I would have had no real interest in doing it. And now it's sort of a thing of, okay, I know how to do that for the future. If I want to, I can always come back to it. It's not really piqued my interest. It seems like it's a very tedious thing, but it's a very rewarding thing when it actually works. But I guess that's the case with all game development. It's rewarding when it works. When it doesn't work, you want to delete it and do a new thing. But it's the perseverance to get it done that makes you a real game developer. Yeah, whatever. But yeah, the next bits are just getting all the finalised destruction done. Kirk is currently implementing all his little sound checks. So the next sort of version will have newer sounds, new hit reactions, in between level sounds when you're in the elevator and such. And yeah, it's entering the final stages now. Yeah, it's funny how quickly the time has passed. Like, it's now the 8th of August. Yesterday was like June in my head. Like, I've woken up from a night's sleep and I've got 2 and a bit weeks until hand in. And yeah, it's scary, but I mean, I'm at a stage where I'm getting more and more comfortable. Like, each time something finishes, I'm okay. It's just like an hour where I'm sat there where it's not working, and I'm going, this is it, this is the end. I accept failure, and then I find something that fixes it, like that stupid tutorial, and then everything's fine. But yeah, thank you for watching the devlog. There'll probably only be one more after this, when the game's in its final state before handing. I did also record a video earlier of the weight painting process, from like start to like midway through before I had to make a phone call, and I didn't want the recording to go on for like 20 minutes. And you can see how tedious it is. It's just going back and forth, refreshing, undoing, and everything. So I'll probably upload that, or I'll probably just include it in the presentation just to show. But yeah, thank you very much for watching and listening, and we'll see you in the final update. Oh.